The next speaker will be inviting Carroll Key, the General Manager, sees SimilarWeb, and she'll be sharing about how consumers are responding to coronavirus. Hi, Carroll. Am I
Hi, Tivia.
pronouncing
Can you hear me? Hi,
Am I
Tivia. Can you
pronouncing your name right?
Sorry, yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry.
correct. Yeah, can hear you. Can hear you. Can
I
see
heard
you.
some echo. Right. All right.
Yeah, you're good to go. Thank you so much for joining us in Marketing in the New Normal. And anytime when you're ready, you can start.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SimilarWeb session. Thank you, Tivia and Nicole, for arranging this. All right. This year, the Marketing Fierce is all about the marketing in the new normal. With this, I'm going to talk about SimilarWeb as a business intelligence tool, how we empower your business decision using a real-time analysis of the reverberations on a Malaysia consumer and business behavior in the wake of the growing coronavirus outbreak. Okay, my name is Carroll. I'm currently overseeing SimilarWeb business in Southeast Asia across 6 countries. Together with me today, I have my colleague June in the live chat now in Facebook and YouTube to answer your question, or you can always leave the questions to the Q&A later. I'm good to happy to answer that. Right. All right. There are 3 main topics that I'm going to cover today. So the first one, we'll look into the impact of coronavirus in the travel industry and how the provider can pivot strategy to increase the conversion. Secondly, we'll take a look into how the retailers today have altered their search and digital ad spend. Last but not least, I will touch a little bit on the content consumption and consumer behavior while people are stuck at home like you and me now, right? Okay, just a little key dates for refresher today. Why this is important? Because later when I'm going to show you the insights is actually very timely in react to the market response. So we started to see the coronavirus case started in Wuhan on December 31st last year. So the first confirmed case in Malaysia is on 25th. So when we are reaching about close to 200 cases, that's where our government implemented the MCO on 18. And this MCO has been extended for 3 times. And today we are on the MCO phase 4 on April 28th until May 12th. Okay, so we have a lot content to cover today. Let's get to the first part of the presentation today. Right. So in SimilarWeb, we have been doing a lot to find out about the impact of coronavirus. So we have a really exciting platform, which is the Coronavirus Hub. So as you can see on the screen, so that's I put the URL. So in this hub, that's where you can keep track of the latest coronavirus-related traffic and the engagement trend. And from the hub itself, you can always subscribe to the email digest. So that's where that we will send you the industry updates and insight right to your inbox, right? And of course, you can always follow us on the social media channel for more COVID-19 coverage. Okay, so before we go deeper, hope you this will help you answer some of the questions later. So it is important to for you to understand how our data methodology is, right? So we have hundreds of diverse data sources across multi-platform. This is where from the desktop, mobile web, iOS, and Android, and they actually come from 4 distinct data sources. So the first one, which is the global panel data set, where we gather the anonymous behavioral data, then followed by the data partnership with the internet operators and measurements companies, right? Thirdly, which is the public data source. It is aggregations of online information available to the public, right? Last but not least, which is we collaborate these data to our first-party direct measurement data from the website and the app that we partner with. right? So after you collect the data will be putting into a machine learning. That's where we'll run through a predictive model for a factual view of the digital world across all sites and apps. That's where we come out the 5 solutions which allow you to serve allow us to serve the different industries. So that's cover from the marketing intelligence until to the sales intelligence. So the beauty of this methodology is that we are using the same ruler to measure everyone's. So in serving this industry, we are lucky to have a breadth of different coverage, both in geographically and across the platform. It is not just the domain traffic level. It is also deep dive into the intent and behavior level at scale. Right. So what is incredible in the one of the key USP is that the speed to our insights, which we update daily to help you act faster to the market change. Right. So in SimilarWeb, we like to look into the consumer journey. So that's actually started from the awareness. So that's where most of our questions coming from, like who are the relevant player in the category? Right, so we have been looking into the top player, but what if those are the emerging player that we are not aware of, right? So it is important to always keep an eye on who is upcoming, right? So when it moves to the consideration, so our concern is coming into the traffic acquisition. So how does the site acquire the traffic, and what channel they use, and what kind of tactical strategy they use? Right. So when it comes into evaluation and decide which product to purchase, that's where the engagement questions when how do we engage them better, and what are the segment they do view a lot, right? And what else they going, beside me, who else they actually check out the pricing and the product, right? So then it follows by the purchase level. So you also wanted to understand how effective a site that converting a user to a purchase, and what does this user actually search within the site itself. This is actually your concern, right? So for the past, you won't be able to know. So, and last but not least, which is the loyalty part, where does the user actually enjoy the experience, and do they make a comeback, right? So in all these concerns, that the points that you might have, so SimilarWeb will be able to answer you in that way. Okay, so yeah, let me quickly jump into the travel industry. So here I'm actually pull out so since actually today I'm mostly in Malaysia audience, so I actually will do on Malaysia insights. So let me jump into that. So before we go into Malaysia, I think it is also important that for us to understand the region. So here we actually look into the online travel platform, cumulative change on a sequential year-on-year basis since the 20 plus cases happen in the region, right? So if you want to find out Southeast Asia, it is actually in the turquoise color, if you notice that, right? So we all know that global travel platform is everyone is actually decreasing massively, but are we really near to the bottom? Right, so let's look into this. So we actually the travel traffic from Malaysia, from Southeast Asia itself, start to decrease on the when we start to have a 20 case and above, right? It was still okay when people still go back to the site and check whether I can change my ticket, and then am I able to get back a refund for any cancellations. So it was still it was actually remain still high, and until to the case of the 41s and above, that's where the massive drop about more than 50%. right? So is this really the bottom that we're seeing? So it seems like now starting to stabilize since the case of the 65 until now is remaining, I would say, that maintained at the growth rate. And this is actually what happened here. But maybe we can use the closer market to us to actually look into this. So let's look into the Japan. So Japan is actually in pink, right? So Japan is still keep dropping. I think due to the few lockdown in Hokkaido and a few states. So that's why that the traffic has not been actually stabilized, especially even after Olympic actually get postponed itself. Since like Hong Kong is also still keep dropping. In this case, it's still until today itself. Okay, so now let's look into the Malaysia, right? So this is all the traffic that here I'm looking into the traffic from the both desktop and mobile web in the month of March to March comparison, right? So what we do here is that we take the travel category here actually consists of the 100 sites that coming with the OTAs, airlines, and also hotel. So we look into the total traffic from last year is about 48 million. And this year itself is actually dropped close to half. I think more than a half. So today we are actually at 26 millions from the total site that visits. So majority of the drop is coming from the OTA. Right. So you notice that OTA used to be at 17 millions, and now it's actually dropped about 10 millions. We are today about 7.7 million. Right. So then we look into the airlines. Airlines about 9 millions, and today is about 5.88 millions. Right. So the major decrease is actually coming from the OTA. Right. So let's look into a deep dive a little. So OTA, majority of the decrease. So who has the major decrease in this? Right. So so looking into this, like so I did took the top 10 OTA players in the Malaysia. So what happened here is that we look into the March versus March. So the major most of the traffic that drop is coming from these three OTAs. So Booking.com, Expedia, and Traveloka experienced a massive drop, more than 40% in March. Right, so I'm just trying to point out the number. So if you want to look into Booking.com, it's actually in purple, right? So and Expedia is actually in yellow, right? And Traveloka is in blue. So if you notice that, so everyone's like seems like decreasing, right? One surprise that you are seeing for the past 1 month, Agoda, right? Agoda actually increased about close to 3% of their traffic in the total of desktop and mobile web. So yeah, of course that we can always deep dive into seeing what actually bring them the traffic increase in by that. So this is actually an overview. Right. So now you may say, hey, Carol, that is actually just the website. So they are also in app, right? So then we look into the March daily active user in the Android platform, right? So now we look into, okay, so in this case, you are seeing that Agoda is increasing in the web, but it's actually experiencing the deepest decrease in the daily active user in Android, right? So the decrease actually started from the 15th of March, right? There is a sharp decrease of close to 300,000 daily active user, and it is still decreasing. So if you notice on the chart itself, it's actually in black line, right? So another same trend that we notice here is actually Booking.com. So seems like Booking.com is actually decreasing in both app and also the web itself. So yep. So what is actually an interesting thing to see? So people can't actually travel right now. But what we notice that the current consumer behavior around travel, especially on getting the informations on the travel related things, are more conducive to the app than the web. So given the complexity and the changing landscape. So if you notice that TripAdvisor is actually in the red colored line, so that is actually, you can see it start increase since the 9th of March, and it's still increasing in terms of the daily active user. Okay, so yep. And this is where that you can see how travel category acquire their traffics, right? So we can actually deep dive into 7 different channels and look into each channel, how they acquire the user, right? So here I actually pull out the March 2019 compare with the March 2020. And of course, we're looking into the latest, which is last 28 days. What is actually the current change, right? So so here we will notice that, okay, so for the organic, we are notice that it still remain there. But what is actually interesting I want to look into is that really people totally like the travel player totally cut off their paid. So the paid search actually decreased 86%. Right, so that is where that you can see March 2020 from the referral is actually a slight decrease as compared to last year, but you can notice that the paid search actually decreased by 4%, and however for the display ad is actually increased. Maybe perhaps that is actually the brands trying to capture some of the user that's searching about the travel related information. So that's where that they are still maintaining the display ad over there, right? So, but for the last 28 days, is actually a massive decrease. So if you notice, referral decreased to 3%, paid search from a 12% last year March, and now decreased to close to just 3%, and display is now actually about 2%. Right, so this is actually to let you see that in terms of the travel category, what has decreased the most. Okay, so now this is actually another interesting thing that we're able to find out from the insights. So we look into, so what I did was actually I built Penang destination, Penang related search as a keyword group, and then how the reason being is that we noticed that Penang search is actually has been increased. So then we look into the March traffic share by who actually gained the search organic search traffic. So that's where we put in a group, and we will see each player here how much traffic share they gain from Penang destination search related keywords. So if you notice that from 1st March until just right before the first MCO implemented, it was actually remain high. Right, and the player is not just in terms of the I would say the OTAs, but they are also the local players, especially in terms of the people looking for a cherry destination, bus online ticket, and also a new site that some of the relatively smaller site that you notice here, like My Singa, is also capturing the traffic there. Okay. So now, besides the I would say the flight search, so what is actually increased in March that we notice is the bus and KTM travel related search, which spiked massively, more than 23%. That's where you can see the same thing from the March 1st, and it's until closing to the 24th, the searches was actually high. Right, so and also we further deep dive into the last 28 days. We notice that every time a day before government actually announced the extension, the search is always high. So especially for the bus and KTM ticket search, and the players that gaining the pie here, you don't see that is any OTAs, whereas it's actually more the local players here. So this is where that you discover who are the the local competitions in the one that you should put into your monitoring player as well, right? So yep. that was actually a quick insight about the travel industry happening in the past 1 month and the last 28 days. Right, so I'll move on to retail. So here retail is everyone's question. This is like, is that really online marketplace after the lockdown is massively increased, right? Yeah, you can try to guess this, right? So yeah, let me jump to the answer. Right. So e-commerce traffic before we jump into Malaysia. So let's look into the region because e-commerce client is also covering some of the plays are actually covering the regions as well. So same thing, we take the e-commerce platform and we do a year-on-year growth comparison based on sequential basis. And if you know this here, so again, the same color, Southeast Asia in turquoise, right? So now you will see that in fact when we started to notice the lockdown and the cases that's starting to increase, in fact in the Southeast Asia consumer are relatively react slower than what it happens to the e-commerce platform. Right. If you notice that when, let me try to point to the screen. So until to the 66 case started, then it start to increase. So whereas you compare to our nearer country, let's say Japan's, when they realize about 20 cases, then you can see e-commerce actually start growing, in a rapid way. And same thing when you look into Hong Kong, when it started on the 18 case, is keep on increasing. So I would say that generally for most of the e-commerce site are actually experiencing steady growth, but in Southeast Asia are relatively slower. Beside the consumer react to the change, is also the e-commerce wise whether they are ready in terms of the supply and infrastructure wise, can they cater to the demand, right? Okay, so let's go into the Malaysia, right? So here actually I took out the top 10. I would say these are the e-commerce marketplace in Malaysia. I would say that most of the Malaysia traffic visited to and see where actually the spike started, right? So when it started, e-commerce platform here actually start picking up after 22nd, right? So we started on 18, but 22nd it started to increase. But if you notice that the increase wasn't really massive, right? So you can see the two big player here, Lazada and Shopee. They are gaining relatively bigger pie, but in total, it was started like the around 65% in the total top 10 e-commerce player. I would say the market share, and then now perhaps actually grow to towards the end of March, it grew to about 70%. Right. So then look into the last 28 days, what is happening, right? So let's look into the last 28 days. So it remains that the traffic share in terms of desktop and mobile web, yeah. So it remains not big changes until to the April 22nd, where we announced the third time of the extension to phase 4. That's where all the e-commerce marketplace site actually spiked. That is where it spiked about 10% here. Okay, so that's now, and it remains, it started to slow down again in terms of that. But of course that this is also looking into, beside the website, we also need to look into the app as well, right? Okay, so and as we know, when it coming into a search intent, people are trying to buy stuff online, right? So does really the marketplace need to actually stop the paid, I would say paid traffic when everyone is starting with searching? So is kind of like automatically that I will gain the pie. Is that really true? But in Malaysia, it is actually like if you're looking into the top 5, everyone seems like maintaining the paid traffic, right? It remains high for the past 28 days. So, and you can see the dark blue is Shopee. Shopee actually increased on the April 12, that the spend actually, you can see that in paid search itself, roughly 2 to 3 times to capture the search intent. And at the same time, Lazada is still remain high in terms of their paid search traffic. Okay, so you may see Amazon, why is that less than 5,000? You may wondering, everyone is trying to, try to capture as much as possible, but why Amazon decrease? So Amazon across the board, they actually cut spending on Google advertising. So in response to the huge surge in demand on the daily items that they're getting, right? So in this case, that the company prioritizing the stocking to the household and medical supply, and hired in the hiring process about 100,000 extra workers. So that's where they are putting in terms of the budget in the, I would say, in the stocking resources, because for them is that their traffic in terms of the searches, purchasing searches is actually already high. So they will rather prepare their back end to fulfill the demands from the market. Right. Now, so here I'm actually pick just one product and look into who gained the pie. So each player here who gained the most pie from this particular product. So again, I'm looking into the mask related keyword, and that's where we can see is starting to decrease from the past 28 days. So you can see that it remains high. Shopee will still be the largest organic search traffic share gainer from here, and you will see like it decreasing like right now. Because I think the stock is actually back to the market and people can actually get from the store itself. But if you notice, we are getting more and more player in the markets. So for example, in fact, Watson actually ranked number 3 in terms of the mask related search keyword. Right, and also people looking, let's say Droppy is more towards the distributions, and also other newcomer in the, I would say, the markets right now, like for example, uberly.com, right? So in SimilarWeb, you can also filter whether this site are actually having transaction on site or they don't have transaction on site. Okay, so yeah, example, right? So just now I mentioned, so who are the new players? So I'm actually take a filter and see who which are the player that can allow transaction on site, right? So here, this is where that we can see, beside the top player Shopee and the Lazada, you can see Wish is also gaining a huge pie here. That is where that they are actually pumping in their in terms of the paid traffic as well to gain the mass related search in the platform itself. Okay, and of course you see Guardian is also in the book itself, and also other players itself. Okay. Now, so Wish especially, they grew about more than 4,000% since February until now. Okay, so the interesting thing is that we can always see what is the best performance advertisement and which site that actually putting up the ads. So I just put out of 2, I would say, best performing advertisements. That is actually performed in the past last 28 days. Okay, so now the other question is, okay, mask is Carroll is by default, everyone will look into sanitizer and mask, but what else? So if you're actually not in these 2 category, right? So what else is actually increasing in the marketplace? So what does people search? What are the searches happening in the search engine right now that bring traffic to the marketplace, right? Beside mask and sanitizer. Right, so I'll point out here. So I'll actually box up a few key important products that you see. The I would say the growth is actually more than 1,005% in the market right now. So it started. The first product is actually air conditioner. It grew about 2,006% from last month to this month. From the previous month to this month. right? And this will be, it might be actually, it could be a kind of like a expected. So pregnancy test product is actually increasing, so about 2004%, and followed by the Me Band, where people actually start exercising at home, so it's also increasing. Other products that you might be like, yes, I'm actually looking for that as well. Example, like Wi-Fi repeaters, and how you want to buy a hangboard. This is where that is increasing in the market. So you're not just looking at yourself, you also can look into what are the increasing product search in the to the marketplaces, and that's where it could be actually help on your product as well. Okay, so now let's come into online grocery, right? So just trying to show you a few key player retailer that actually gaining the pie. Yep, let's jump into this. So same thing, I'll actually let you see the Southeast Asia growth. So as compared to the e-commerce marketplaces growth, so grocery delivery in Southeast Asia actually react much faster than the e-commerce, right? So that's why you can see starting from the 40 cases, it start to increase. So same case that you're looking into other countries as well. Example, Japan and Hong Kong and Australia, which is nearer to our market. Everyone, just for the first less than 40 cases, the grocery searches is actually spike, and it still remain high in that way. Okay. Now, so now I'm actually pick these four retailer that is actually provide grocery delivery. So besides that, I know that Lazada and Shopee might also deliver as well, but we wanted to look into a retailer perspective, right? So now you can see Tesco is always at the upper hands in terms of the upper grounds when they actually started. They're always in developing the I would say the online grocery business. It has been quite a while. So they are the top player in the market right now. And beside that, you can see Jaya Grocer, Mydin, and Happy Fresh has been competing head to head. Especially after the announcement on the 16th. So that's where that they're competing head to head, right? And Tesco is still remain high here. Right, so you can see that the 3 times increase on that day itself when government announced the MCO. Right, so is that really these are the retailer cutting their paid? So this is we picked up Tesco and Happy Fresh in a sense in terms of their paid search. You can see that in fact for the last 28 days they actually increasing their paid search in a huge amount. That is also signaling that they might be also in terms of the low supply and high demand in the store, right? So that's where that they are capturing the in-store traffic to fulfill the demand first, and that's where in fact the I would say Jaya Grocer actually put on site that they actually put on hold on the grocery delivery. Right, and one thing that if I'm looking into these 4 main, I would say the delivery players in the market, what are the trending search products? So for example, like I'm searching this product, and that's where that leads me to Jaya Grocer, Mydin, Tesco, and Happy Fresh, right? So sorry, this is where you can see the traffic actually increasing from, especially cheese is actually a huge increase, right? Followed by even like yogurt drinks and ice cream, and these are the increasing product in the market right in the searches right now. Okay, now coming to my last part, which is I will touch on the content consumption on site. Right, so here actually I pull out the right after the announcement on the first MCO, we wanted to see on a year-on-year sequential growth change as compared to last year, and we put January as a base here and see what is a growth rate like for after the announcement, right? So here we picked up the top 10 key publisher. And you can see right after the announcements, it was actually a huge increase in terms of the content consumption. So that you can see because of the people actually stay at home, and also I would say the mobile devices is their main content consumption from that form, right? And this is actually on web. So then the other huge increase, that which is you might also expected this, but the answer is how much increase in terms of that, right? So we can also look into the demands for the entertainment is also swung up, especially on the streaming video consumption. That's where you can see from a Netflix, iFlix, and TrueView, everyone is actually increased at least more than 150%. I think here you can see it's more than 130% itself. So, yep. And then we switch on to the OTT platform via app. So then we look into a daily active user, what is actually trending. So you might not see Astro in the web, but you can see since Astro actually giving out the, I would say the free access, you can see Astro has been championing in terms of the growth wise in the app, I would say landscape itself. So you can see that the DAU is is a huge increase, and in fact the usage is actually remain high even after the 7 days of after the announcement on the first MCO. Okay. So, yep, that's come to just a quick summary here based on what I presented just now. That was just a quick summary, but of course we can deep dive into brand by brand, right? So, although the travel is being hit hard by the COVID, but you can see that the destination search, it might actually will last longer, that when you can see that people are coming back to read about the content on the travel itself, right? And followed by online marketplace that were reviewed, and the overlooked opportunity for the growth that it could be to a niche category that we might not aware of. For example, like let's say aircons, or just how we look into the pregnancy test as well. So that is where that we might not slightly not aware of the huge spike in that. In terms of the online grocer, so we can see that you'll probably search still, but if the supply meets the demand, and perhaps that is actually at a lower fees, that then you will get after the MCO, it was still, people are used to the the convenience, people will continue that, right? So, and this is also looking into the coronavirus has taken the news cycle, and you can see the major player, even the upcoming, those are the relatively smaller player in terms of the news provider company, they also increase their traffic exponentially, right? And last, this is where that you can see consumers stuck at home and trying to entertain themselves. Here I didn't show is that you can always look into the gaming company, and what actually the top I would say activities that people actually looking for in the internet. So you will be able to actually look into that as well. Okay. So that's ends my quick sharing today. So if you want to learn about the Coronavirus Insight Hub, you can always go to the site, and you can always contact us in the enquiry.sea@similarweb.com.
All right, Carol, thank you so much. That was a very, very insightful sharing. Great sharing. Thank you so much for your input. Was thinking if I can share some of the questions that's being asked in the comment section. A few questions are being answered by your colleague. Thank you so much for that. And I'll just pick one question now. Do you have the search stats for B2B products and services?
Yes, we do. Actually, so long any searches that happening in, I would say any searches that happening in the search engine, we are not just looking into Google. It's also other search engine as well. So long the traffic, the searches happening there, we are actually capture almost 100% there. Yeah.
Okay. Audience, if you guys have any questions for Carol, do put it in the comment section so that it's easier for us to ask anything that you like to ask to SEA, right? I pronounce it C or SEA, I don't know. Either way, it's fine, right?
I think
Okay.
if any one of you want to find out, I think the easier way is we can actually do a quick sharing demo call, because the dashboard is actually lifetime, so we can show you how it pulls that maybe 2-3 clicks away you can pull out that. So here, because I just worry about the internet might not be so smooth, so else I can actually do a live demo here.
Okay, I thought one more thing I wanted to ask, right? Like talking about the consumers' reaction into the coronavirus and all those things. How is the response like for the digital space? Like that so many sites, so many apps, so many softwares are being used, being utilized. So what do you think? What is your input into this particular industry, especially the digital space? How are the consumers reacting?
I see. So I think the biggest things that we are seeing is not just people stuck at home, it's also how people changing the way they work, right? So example, I mean, beside that people by default you can see like Zoom, everyone is actually increasing. Like example, like how we can also seeing the change of the user, especially for the working crowd today, is that especially when you need to get a signature from the other departments and the approval, right? You can see docu sign today is massively increased. So the reason being is that, people are going to see like, I'm going to work from home at least, I don't know, I foresee myself going to after the raya in a way. So how do I actually change the traditional way of me working with my colleague and other department, right? So this is actually the working in terms of the interdepartment, I would say coordination. We see a huge change, and also. Then from I would say that the other part of it is actually the people content consumptions on at home. Like example, like parents has been massively searching how to keep the kids busy, right? So it's actually a massive in a way. So you can see easily you just put in and you can see what kind of related keywords that parents are actually searching from home, and they can even like just the purchase in terms of subscribe to certain app to keep their kids busy is also a huge increase in that. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of webinars, a lot of initiatives are being taken to make use of the digital space, I would say. So in that way, consumers are reacting, I would say, positively for the digital space due to the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So with that, I think thank you so much, Carol, for your inputs, for sharing a lot of things about consumers' behavior. Thank you so much. I think a lot of them are totally agreeing to it. And I think some of them are asking if they missed the last session. I think if you guys missed any session, the recorded session will be updated to the website and the slides as well. So you can totally go to the website and get all the recording session and slides. So with that, thank you so much, Carol. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.